Hello, all you students. It is so good to be here doing an incredible interview that hopefully will serve you guys. Actually, I know for certain this will definitely serve all of you. And we have the wonderful Joel and Kate Virgo here with us. For those of you who don't know, Joel is the...
Hope.
We just wheel him on.
Yes. For those of you who don't know, Joel leads the church with a team of elders, and his wife, Kate, leads a huge range of other aspects that go on in the church, including youth work, including services. Joel and Kate, it is great to see you here.
Hey, guys.
And it's
Thanks for
great
having us.
to be eating some food.
We've got some
over
food.
Here.
Big up Lost Boys. If you haven't been to Lost Boys before, guys, you need to
That's where this
get
is from.
yourself. Yeah.
Yes.
You need to get yourself there.
Get some
We got
good
some wings and some curly fries.
Yeah.
Let's do
They're the
this.
best.
And we got some celery.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So there you go. That's
Oh
mine.
my gosh.
I was a bit nervous
my
about eating
portion.
that. Like, that's the big, you know. But you can go
noisy.
for it. Go for it.
Look at, we've got wings and chips.
There's a lot going on.
I'm going to have the celery.
But whilst we talk into this lovely food, guys, we have lots of questions to ask you guys, get to know you
Good.
guys, and also to help our students understand a little bit more about our church, feel a bit more a part of it and stuff like that. But I thought we would kick us off with some questions
Let's do that.
to get to know you guys a little bit more. So the first question is, what is the worst gift that you have given each other?
The worst gift. I think it would have to be. This is like, it's actually, I'm almost a bit embarrassed for you. The worst gift.
It's going to be painful.
And
You're going to need some
I
prayer.
don't think it's just because you have to know me to know why this would be a bad gift. I think it would be a bad gift for anyone, I think. For Christmas, Joel got me an electric carving knife.
Wow.
Romantic.
Yeah. And then
I still don't get it. I think I would have been deeply touched myself.
yeah, I was really, really, really disappointed.
I'll make up for it by giving you this.
I just
Still
opened
doesn't
it,
work.
and it felt like that was Christmas over. It was like, great, don't really know what to do with that. I guess we probably had it at Christmas dinner, and you were probably really excited to...
Yeah, fair enough.
You bought it for yourself?
That's it. Crack the code.
That is the thing husbands do. But
Yeah.
I honestly thought...
Joel's a very good cook, so there you go.
No.
I think since this is a time for just letting out some pain and
Oh, no.
confronting the past,
Can I
and,
just
getting
say,
some healing.
if it's what I think it is, it was over 20 years ago.
Okay. Good to know. Good to know.
Time doesn't heal everything. You can't just say that.
Okay,
You
I
need
know
to
what
be
you're going to
brought up
say.
to be confronted, repented of, and moved on.
I'm ready.
Yeah, I think it was a pair of socks. Is that what you thought I was going to say?
Wow.
Okay.
You have
So
to
I
describe.
thought I'm not against socks. I'm obviously, they're necessary, and I'm happy if people want to buy me socks. But these were socks with pictures on them,
Right.
which is always, to me, that's just inappropriate.
Can you remember
That's
what the
quite.
picture
What were the
and
pictures?
Homer Simpson. So everything about it was just
Right.
like, we only just started going out, and it was like, this is pretty early on. And,
Yeah.
It did nearly bring an end. We've
You'd
got
question,
five children whose existence hovers on whether or not I was prepared to let this ride.
And you did.
I did.
Wow.
I found the patience, in God. I
Dear.
found grace for it, and
Wow.
we moved on. We moved past it.
Yeah, yeah. And I was just wondering, what is some of the most awkward things that you've done as students?
I think the funniest thing I did as a student, well, I say funny, is just suddenly thinking about it, is that I got married after being at uni for 6 weeks.
There you
So-
go.
Wow.
And then, so that was at the beginning of it, and then at the end of it, I fell pregnant. So that was actually quite unusual. But so getting married and...
You were a mature student.
Yes, I was.
Probably, so
There you
go.
she wasn't like, just left sixth form. Not that that's wrong.
Yeah, sure, yeah.
Some of you might have done that.
But that's why I thought it just sounded quite... But I think for me, yeah, it's true. I was 24, I went as a mature student. I didn't know what I wanted to do at 18, 19 at all. So rather than going to uni then, I waited.
Sure.
So I went at 24 and did it part-time. But I think the main thing for me was that just the sausage sandwiches every morning. I went to the canteen and ate way too much sausage sandwiches.
I mean, classic.
Yeah,
really.
I'm learning things. That's okay.
I'm sure many people can relate at
Well,
home.
I think actually one of her best stories is from when she was a student of secondary school. She
Okay.
involved her PE teacher. And
Oh,
she,
no!
she locked in a PE cupboard. She locked him in the PE cupboard.
Why?
Because she was like
He
that.
was he was on teacher training.
He was a teacher, like a young
and he
teacher
had a
training.
broken leg.
Poor guy.
He had a cast. And and them like
Broken
crutches.
leg. Good. It was an invalid. Can't believe it.
No, I
locked him in the
I
cupboard.
locked him in and ran away.
Ran away.
Wow.
He's still in there now. So no one ever found it. No.
Wow.
One of my kids would probably do that every day if he could, wouldn't he?
Yeah. We'll keep this away
We
from
both
them.
know which kid it would.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, clearly, we've learned so much about you already.
Yeah,
I think
yeah.
If we were to summarise
Not to be
Joel and
trusted.
Katie already, I mean, we've got it.
Well, definitely.
Got it. Thank you, guys.
Definitely.
You can close it there. As much as you need to know.
dear.
Yeah.
But there are more questions that we have. There's kind of a theme we're going on here.
Yes.
Do you want to take it over?
Yeah, sure, definitely. I think basically I've just let everyone know that you guys lead the church. And I would just love to know what your story is. How did you even get here? How long have you been here for? A lot of students have just come in first, second or third year. You guys are just Joel and Katie. See you on screen, you know. What is your story?
I can start us off because I actually started the church when I was 4 years old, which
Oh,
is
there we are.
I always say that, and
No one
everyone
believes you.
everyone thinks that I'm making it up. It's true. No, I was part of the original team. I was a 4-year-old, and there was a little team of about 38 people. It might have been 38 adults, so I might have not been included in the 38, but who started it in a little school in Hove and brought their own chairs in, and you know, it was just really raw. And, anyway, I was part of that. I've got very vague memories of that. Having said that, I did, in the 90s, I moved, travelled in different countries, came back to the UK, went off to university in the north of England, in Newcastle, and then, so we were actually living in Bedford, where Kate grew up, having got married, and I was actually all set to go to Johannesburg, back to South Africa, where a friend of mine was planting a new church in Johannesburg. We were planning to be on his team. That him and his wife were dear friends of ours, and we were really up for it.
And it was quite awkward because we'd announced it to the church with me.
Oh, really?
Floods of tears.
Yeah. And me saying, "Get over it, woman."
I'm really happy about
The Lord has spoken. Stop crying.
Johannesburg, leaving my hometown.
Yeah. So it was quite a big
It
thing.
was quite a big deal, wasn't
You know,
it?
and then suddenly, totally unexpectedly, the guys in the team here contacted me and said, "Do you ever think of coming back to Brighton?" And the guy that was leading the church at the time was travelling off to Australia to plant churches. So they were talking about, "Oh, we need you to come and lead here." And I thought at the time, this sounds a little bit of an easy move, going home. You know, it's going to Johannesburg or there's going home.
Yeah, right.
So, probably not God. And I also thought, you know, I'm probably not ready to lead a church. You know, I could be on someone else's team, but I don't think I could lead that church. You know, it felt like too much of a big thing. So I just kind of put it to one side. Everybody I spoke to about it, though, they all said, "This makes way more sense. This is what you should do. Don't go to Johannesburg. You should go to Brighton." So I just thought, I better start praying then. And so as I prayed about it, I felt like God wasn't really answering the question. You know, sometimes you pray for weeks about something, and I felt like I'm still a bit confused. Couldn't make the decision. I kind of felt like I wanted to get a specific answer to prayer that would help me to feel more clear about this. And I don't recommend this. This isn't the normal way to do it. But on this occasion, I just said, "Lord, if there's someone who's got your guidance for me, let them phone me up within the next half an hour."
Wow.
And I just sort of thought afterwards, what a stupid prayer. It's not professional, you know. Not good. And then I got phoned within half an hour by a friend of mine who I'd been out of touch with. I mean, we phone about once every year, or every couple of years. He phoned me up and he said, "I just felt like I was supposed to phone you now." So he has got my attention. I just felt I felt like I was supposed to tell you right now. But it was about something that God gave a sort of vision I got a couple of weeks ago. But I really felt I was supposed to phone you now.
Wow, okay.
So it was exactly how I prayed. And then he talked about, there's something that you feel like you're not ready for and that you think it's a bit of a distraction. And God's saying it's not a distraction and you are ready. So do it. And it was like, okay. So it's one of those remarkable kind of moments of guidance that just settled it for us. So that's the long version of it.
You guys have been on quite a journey, to say the very least, and we are very grateful for all your hard work putting into this church, so thank you guys.
Bless you.
I guess another thing that would maybe help some students is understanding what is Emmanuel about?
Yeah.
What is kind of the core values that this church is all about here, and how can I be a part of that? So do you guys want to describe the core values? bit more in
If
detail?
I have a crack at saying it's nice and easy because it's just we try to boil it down to just a few headings.
Yeah.
So it's nice and easy to
Bam,
remember.
bam, bam.
Yeah. So the basic kind of task that we go after is helping people find their way back to God, and that's pretty simple. You know, it's nice and clear. Everybody who God has made, every man, every woman, every human being. Made in the image of God for a relationship with God. Every single one of them, whether they believe in God or not. We have this calling as Christians, and we've kind of put it in these words as a church, helping people find their way back to God, to help people on that journey, really rediscovering the God they were made for. So that's the kind of big one to start. And then the four kind of values, the way we summarize it is we say Jesus leads the church. And so we although we have leaders, we have a team of leaders, and we all have roles, and it's a privilege, but really we're kind of subordinate leaders to him. And so we always want to be making sure that we're looking for his will, like in our praying, in looking at the scriptures. He leads us through the Bible, so that we know what he says is what we do. It's got to come from what he says. We pray not because Christians ought to pray, but because we need to desperately.
Yeah, right.
He's the boss, so we got to spend time with him, listening to him, and following what he seems to be commanding. So that's the next one is everything changes except the gospel. So if everything changes, then we've in the end got nothing to say because we're just drifting and being in with society and with the culture and not standing out. But if nothing changes, if all we ever do is sound like Christians used to sound in the 1990s or the 1950s or the 1500s, or then no one actually can connect with us because we're in a different time zone, and it doesn't make any sense to them.
Culture changes.
Yeah. So somehow we've got to do both. We've got to be in the world that we're living in, but we've also got to stand fully by the truth that God's revealed in the Word. So we say it like that: everything changes except the gospel. There's some things that we never give up on, and there's some things that we hold very lightly. And then the next one is. So we've got Jesus leads the church. Everything changes except the gospel. The next one is players team, which means that we don't have this idea that we sort of all stand by one superhero who has all the answers, but nor do we say, well, everybody's got their own right to pull in any direction.
Yeah, right.
But we think, right, the best way we can work is as a united body where I bring my gifts, you bring your gift, and we bring it together. Yeah. That way we have a greater impact. And again, that's completely what the Bible teaches. So even the way that God has shown himself as Father, Son, and Spirit, that there's like a unity in it, in the diversity. And we've got to learn that. Even in marriage, that's part of our story, isn't it? That we've had to accept that, I don't get to just be independent, but thank God I don't, because we're much better as a team. Last one is the stay inspired, which is massively important. If you miss that, I think it ends up being just that we all say the right things, but we're not full of life. There's no power. There's no charge of life in it, and that's not right. Jesus wants us to be filled with the Holy Spirit. The Bible teaches go on being filled with the Holy Spirit in Ephesians 5:18. It's an ongoing. The verb is like a continuous thing. Go on being filled. Being filled with the Holy Spirit. And when the church stops doing that and leaves the Holy Spirit at the door, sort of thing, we end up getting rustier and crankier and less forgiving, less kind. Less courageous, and it's the wrong kind of culture. Yeah, right. So we need always to be saying, God, keep filling me with your life, with your power, fill me with your spirit, which the word inspire literally means that. We want to stay inspired, stay being filled with the Holy Spirit. So those are our four key values that come out of the big help people find their way back to God.
So the great thing is that if you, as you all know, in the student department, if anyone ever says, oh, what's the vision for the youth department, or what's the vision for the student department, that's what I love about it, is that whatever part of the church that you connect with, this is our vision. We all have one vision.
Yeah, right.
Players team across the departments of the church, and it's
so good. Okay, if there is a student who's checking us out, watching this video, and they're like, okay, well, your church seems cool, but I'm also going to this church and checking this out, or I sometimes go to their services, or sometimes do this and that. What would you say to a student who's going to multiple churches, or someone, is there like an importance in going to one church? What would you guys say? Katie, do you want to start?
Yeah. I think that when we can feel like when you spread yourself thin, when you go and visit lots of different places, and there are good churches in
There's
Brighton
a
and
lot.
Hove. So it's so we're not saying we're the best or anything like that.
Not
But when
at all.
you spread yourself thin and go to lots of different places, I think you can convince yourself that you are being served better and that you are being accountable and you're being discipled in more places. But I would say that the opposite is happening, that when you spread yourself across multiple services, multiple friendship groups, multiple church leaders, that actually what happens is that you can end up just falling between two stools. No one quite knows if you've left, if you've gone somewhere else.
Yeah, right.
And no one quite knows whether to actually really get hold of you and say, I want to serve you, I want to love you, I want to train you, I want to see the best in you, I want to see you fly in your leadership gifts and the strengths that God's put within you. So I think I would say to somebody that's actually going to multiple places that is not God's best for you. I think the best for you is to go somewhere, to be known and to get to know the people and to play your part where you're at and commit yourself to them. Say to your leader, I'm here, I'm all in, I want to serve you. What do you want to draw out of me? How can I serve you? And just how can I be accountable? These are my weaknesses, these are I think my strengths are, and just completely chuck yourself into one place is what I would say.
Great.
I think it's a bit like the difference between dating and marrying. So I think don't date the church. You know, you can't, not forever. So I think you've got to choose a church, and that requires some dating. That you know, just sort of visiting, connecting is really wise. So I would look around. But I think when you're at the point where you're doing what Kate's saying, and actually saying, I will do better because I'm connected meaningfully, then you want to take it a step further. But that doesn't mean, you know, because I'm married to Kate, doesn't mean I can't be friends with other people, other women even, or other people's wives even. I've got loads of good friends who are actually, in some ways, I'll pick up lessons and wisdom from all kinds of people, but there's no way that relationship is meant to be the same as it is with Kate.
Right.
So it's a bit similar, really. It's like, but just learn from everybody. You know, get podcasts, go, visit. If you can visit other churches, if you get the opportunity to do that, I think it's a really good idea. I do that. If I get the chance on holiday to visit a different church, I love doing that because there's so much to learn, so much that you won't get in just one church. So range is good, but don't let that be an excuse for kind of staying in the dating phase forever and never landing anywhere.
I guess that could have impact as well, right? On the whole stay inspired, the working as a team as well. If you're not able to put in yourself to that thing, it would impact your inspiration on the direction you're going and impact your service to that particular cause, that vision that particular church has.
So good.
Yeah, definitely. Wow, okay. But I guess it would be great to talk about what do you think, it's going to sound like a super strange question, what do you think God is doing with us in the time that we're in? Where do you think we're going? Literally in this kind of generational time, what do you think God's doing?
What I've noticed is that there are generational waves. So when the church started, it started with really mainly a bunch of young leaders, young people. Many of them would have been student age, and they kind of got hold of God and said, let's be part of this radical new thing. And I think over the decades, that's happened again at different waves. And I think when we moved down in 2016, it felt like a new season, like a new generation of young leaders came through.
I can even remember the prophetic word that one of our friends had the night you became an elder about the like being at a theatre and actually seeing a kind of curtain closing, an act finishing, and then the curtains are opening. And
Yes.
So good.
Yeah, that's right. But I think that we've got to the point where it's like another wave is coming.
Yeah,
in terms of a new generation Some of them are just brand new Christians coming through on Alpha right now.
Yeah.
Some of them are people who've just moved to Brighton as students. Some of them are people who've been part of the church since they were born, almost like me, but they're just coming of age. They're hitting their kind of adult stage now, and they're just feeling a little bit more sense of responsibility for the church. They feel a bit more inspired about it, and they feel like this I want to be part of this. And it's really exciting. And what we need is to see a huge swell of energy, life, creativity, ideas, cultural insight, passion, you know, things that they're motivated about, things that I wouldn't necessarily quite see and need to learn about. And so I feel like that's a new thing up ahead.
I mean, yeah, you might not be able to see it, but definitely from us, the students that we're kind of like leading, we can. And I think you're right. Give it a few years with more discipleship and more sense of like ownership. God will really use them quite significantly. Yeah.
And I think the thing that you were saying about how it all started from even just young students being like, we've got a vision here, let's go with it. I think that's so encouraging, not only for me, but for students watching at home to be like, it's not just older people who are doing this and growing the church and whatever. It's like, actually, no, it starts from a young age. Like, let's get involved, let's be a part of this. So that's really cool.
I think really most great moves of God historically have been at least a large chunk of it has been amongst that kind of early 20s and late teens kind of age group that has really been part of the energy and life of it. Most real movements are shaped more by that in history than we probably realise.
Yeah, right.
And, that's more normal
Yeah.
than. So I think anyone at that stage needs to just feel it's not about you're the leader of the future. No, do it now. Do it now.
Yeah,
You know,
right.
This is the moment.
Yeah, definitely.
Which is what both of us would have done at that age, wasn't it? We're just thinking.
Yeah.
I remember one of the best bits of leadership advice for me when I gave my life to God in a clear way, thinking, right, this is it, I'm called to build the church. I was only 18, 19. And I just remember my senior pastor saying, okay, look around and who can you influence and who can you lead? So I was like, okay, well, you four are listening. And so that was it. I just sowed my life into 4 people and just thought, okay, let's see what happens next. So that was the start of the youth work that I was based at. And
Which grew to about 100,
over
over 100 people.
Wow.
And then I know for you, it's the same thing. It was like kind of the age of like 16 or so, so you were a bit younger than me in some ways, where God just thought, okay, who are you going to influence? Who are you going to
That's so
share the
good.
good news with?
And that kind of leads me on to my next question. I guess for our students watching at home, you know, student years are so important, to say the least. And just even talking about, you know what, students, you can own this. You can be a part of the change. You can be a part of sharing Jesus with people. Would you have any top tips for our students watching of how to make the best of their student years, how to get more involved in Emmanuel, to be a part of that shaping and changing? Yeah.
Looking back, I didn't realise that I had more time as a student. I think you don't always feel it at the time, but looking back, I definitely see that. And I think that if you can invest your time in the friendships that you've got with other people, influencing them for good, praying with them, making time to go and seek people out to be discipled by them, to hang out with them, to ask questions. I remember loving at that point thinking, okay, I want to have food, I want to be fed, and I need friendships. And so I remember having a lot of meals with families. And I know I served them by just being there and kind of hanging out with often their children and stuff. But also for me, I know it did me good for just kind of learning from them. I did them good. And I think that really, I think for how you kind of think, how do you do that, especially sometimes in a bigger church? But I think the first thing would be coming to your leaders, and so coming to you guys and saying, do you know a family that I can go around? And I know, again, COVID times you can't, but that's unusual. Most of the times we can do that. So I think that would be one thing, just kind of getting committed to community, just thinking, how can I befriend community? I think whether that's for small groups, obviously just literally thinking, getting committed to going to church every single week. It's a habit, and sometimes you have to do it in cold blood at first, and it's like walking into a party, isn't it, on your own? It just feels awkward. You think, I've got to do this in cold blood, and soon, after a few weeks, it'll be like someone will spot you across the room, and you're like, But there's a tough bit at the beginning that you got to make a choice to push through, and then you can flip it and think, okay, if I see someone walking in on their own, then I'm going to be the one. You probably feel awkward even though you're probably putting your strut on, and I'm going to go over to you and say hello to you. I've actually, the most students that I've met is actually from being on the serving with the kids team.
Yeah.
I love young people. I'm not that natural with little ones, even though we have some of our own. but I've loved getting to know some of the student team and and some of the students from doing that.
I think the point about time and how much you've got, it's one of those lessons that you can't learn until it's too late.
Yeah.
So it's best to learn it from people who, please listen to us.
Yeah.
If you're watching this, trust us. We've been there, and we need you. You need to try. If you feel busy right now, I'm not saying you're not, but you will feel even busier and more restricted in your responsibilities. Assume that you've got time.
Yeah.
If you've got opportunities to serve, to discover your gifts. Don't think, well, can I fit that in? I wonder if I'm a bit busy. Find out by doing it, because later in life you won't have the same opportunity. This season won't last forever, so use it well. And I think just in the midst of that, be prepared to make mistakes. You're going to, and you're meant to. You're meant to get it wrong. It sounds weird to say that, but I really mean it. That's part of the point of this stage of your life. You're meant to grow by making mistakes. And so, one other tiny thing I'd say is when you're I think we're in a culture where we're keen to fit in and for people to to be acceptable. And that's always true, but especially now, I think people are scared of stepping out and setting out a sort of a sense of purpose and destiny, conviction. I think just let people sometimes see your serious side. Like, I remember when I was an undergrad, I just decided I'm going to get up early in the morning for the rest of my life. I'm just going to be that kind of person because I thought I need to do that. Not everyone has to do that, but I felt for me it was right. And I knew one of the things I had to deal with was that some of my friends, some of them are godlier than me. It wasn't because they were bad people, but they were the ones who were trying to stop me doing it. And it was a bit of a kind of, it's just, there's a lot of that stuff where I was like, no, I really know in my heart I must build some discipline in, and just being prepared to just go for it. Go for it on stuff that you think, I want to set my life up now. I don't want to just be, I don't know, PlayStationing my life away or whatever. I want to set some clear things in and not say, well, when I'm in my 30s, I'll take life seriously. You won't have time. So give yourself to carving out a good life shape that will.
That's so good.
Well, the investment is making decisions now. It doesn't need to be waking up early, like you said.
Yeah, it can be anything.
But just making decisions and doing something about these things is definitely
especially in student years, man. It even reminds me of the book of Daniel. Whenever, like in the first chapter, you already see Daniel being tested of like the culture and the way they're doing things. And Daniel's like, okay, I'm just gonna make this small decision to eat vegetables instead of what you guys are eating. Like he chose to do that small act, and you just think, well, you're just changing your food.
You little weirdo. What?
But that small act changed him into the person that he was. Getting all of this authority, having this leadership, having the heart that he had towards God. It's like, actually, the small decisions we make today has such a huge impact on where we'll be. So it's huge.
It's a good example.
Definitely. Wow. Well, thank you so much for everything that you have to say. And we really hope that this has been inspirational to you. I would love actually for you guys to just say, either in your groups or in the chat, what is it that has inspired you? What have you taken from this and thought to yourself, you know what, I will adopt this. I will make this my own. Or maybe it's, I'm going to pick a church and that's my church. Or maybe it's, I'm going to get up early, or I'm going to stay later to read the Bible. I remember the last student night that we had, the person had said that they read their Bible at midnight. Maybe that's you. That's where that's how you're inclined to be. I don't get you, but that might be how you're inclined to be. Whatever it is, what decision are you going to make? What are you going to take and be inspired by and run with? But for now, what we're going to do is we're going to hand it back to future Arnold and Jess. Thank you so much for listening, and we'll see you soon.